Alright, so in this video we will handle the logic for displaying the My Articles as well as favorite articles in the profile page. So as you can see, when we click on My Articles, it is making a request to the author and the favorite to the favorite endpoint. And let's say if you go ahead and like an article, and now if you go to the profile, we should see the favorite article there. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So the first step is to handle the tab state like the previous episode. So let's declare a tab state and as well as import the reagent dependency. And let's also copy the functions that we defined in the main view for handling the two tabs. And let's copy that in the profile namespace, the profile page. And also change the name of the functions to suit our needs. And let's also import the articles dependencies, because we will be needing this over here. We need to show the articles. Now let's save it. And let's make sure that we have the tab state defined before the functions so that we don't see the warnings. And the default initial state will be My Articles. And when we click on My Articles, the tab state should be My Articles. And when we click on Favorite Articles, it should be changed to Favorited. Now let's go to the articles namespace, and here we will define two functions that does basically, it makes the API request to fetch the articles by author. And if you look at line number 49, it makes a GET request and it accepts two arguments, the author and the page. And let's call our function fetch by author. So this is the first function that we are going to implement. And this function accepts two arguments, the author and the page. And if you look at it, it's we are encoding the author, and we also have a limit function. And encode is just the encode URI component, which this is a standard function. And yeah, let's copy the body from the articles feed and let's modify this function. So the first thing that we need to fix is the URI. So instead of feed, we should say article author. And so let's copy the encode URI component, and in order to use this JavaScript, we need to prefix it with JS/encode URI component. And now to test this, so as you can see, this is what it does. If you have hello world, it encodes the space with /20, %20. And also let's implement this limit function. So on line 44, so we will define a function called limit, and this function accepts two arguments, the limit and the offset. So let's actually copy the function from the React code, and then let's all we are doing is concatenating the string. So limit equals to the count, and offset equals to if the p exists, then we do p times count, otherwise 0. So what we can do is or multiply p times total count, otherwise 0. And let's replace the string on line 46 with the limit function. The first argument will be 5, and the second is the page. And I think we are good with this function. Now the next step is to test this function. Oh, also we need to add the and after the author. And also let's rename the p to page. Now let's on line 52, let's have a comment block, and let's test our function. So let's open the network tab and let's see what's happening here. This should return a list of articles. So as you can see right now, Okay, so this is not working. So there's something wrong with this function. Okay, so you know what? Let's go ahead and implement the second function as well, the fetch by favorited, and we can worry about debugging it once we have implemented the other function as well. So let's name it favorited by, and if you look at line 57, it's the same as by author. It accepts two arguments, the username as well as the page number, and this time instead of author it's favorited, right? And we also forgot to add the equal sign after the author as well as favorite, so let's make sure we add that. And maybe this might have been the issue, so if we call the by author again, and no, this is not working. So yeah, why is this not working? So let's test the favorited as well, and this is not working as well. So why is this not working? So if you look at the endpoint, we see that the limit is equal to a function. So let's go ahead and test the limit function that we wrote on line number 31. So yeah, REPL is also a very quick way to inspect it. So let's test this function using the REPL, and the first argument is 5 and 0, and if we invoke this, limit is equal to function. So this is because I was looking at the React code, the JavaScript code when implementing this. So instead of count, it should be total. Count is actually a function. So now it looks like everything is good. So now if we so now let's refresh and let's call the favorited by function again, and this is not working. Now why is this not working? This is not working because we have to there's no slash, it's question mark after the articles, so the route does not exist. Now if we call the favorites endpoint, we should see the articles. Awesome. And by now the fetch by author should work as well. Yeah, it seems that it's working. Now that we have these two functions working, let's also rename the fetch by author to just fetch by. Yeah, so now that we have these two functions working, let's import it, let's use it in the profile page, right? So on line 34, handle my articles. Actually first change the tab state, so instead of my articles, let's name the initial state to author, and also rename the function on line number 34 from handle my articles to fetch author, and in line 38 from handle favorited to fetch favorited. Also we need to remove the articles feed as well as articles browse function from these two functions respectively. So in the fetch author we should call the fetch by function. So since we have aliased articles, we can just say articles slash fetch by, and this function accepts a username, so we need to pass the username, and let's just pass 0, which is the value of the offset. And same goes for the second one, the favorited by. So on the fetch favorited, it accepts a username, and instead of articles browse, we need to call the favorited by. And actually, you know what, let's import the functions directly. So yeah, let's delete the articles feed and articles browse, and let's import the fetch by as well as favorited by, and we can remove the alias as well. And now that we have the functions, let's also pass the username to favorited by, and the second argument is 0. Now the next step is obviously to use this function. We're going to copy the class from the previous episode so that we have the respective active classes, and as well as add the on-click handlers to this anchor tags, right? So for my articles is fetch author, and for favorite articles it's fetch favorited. Now that we have the handlers, the next step is to copy the articles component so that we can show the articles. So let's copy the namespace and copy it below the profile namespace. So apps component articles, and we just want to refer to the articles component. and below the article list comp in line 66 we want to copy the paste the articles, and let's delete the string as well. And now let's save everything, and now it's time to test. And okay, so there's something wrong. Why is this not working? So as you can see, the author, there's something wrong with the author. So something is not working. This is because when we have registered the on-click, we forgot to pass the username. We just passed the function itself, so that was the error. So let's fix that on line 64 as well as on line 60. So let's fetch author, and now if we refresh and click on favorited articles as well as my articles, it should work because we haven't favorited anything. But if you refresh, we should see some article loaded on my articles. Now this is because if we open the network tab, we should see why this is happening. And let's refresh. So if you look at the first call, it's calling the articles. So this is because in the previous episode on the core namespace, we are calling the articles browse on line 24, so we need to remove this. And now everything should work as expected. So if you refresh, my articles there shouldn't be any articles because we haven't favorited any articles. And that's about it. And now if you go to the home and your feed, everything should work as expected. So that's about it for this episode. I will see you on the next episode. Bye.